Breaking news. This is actually a very good news for Nnamdi Kanu and also for every Biafrans all over the world. One thing I can assure you is that we Biafrans are actually winning this at all costs. Major victory for Nnamdi Kanu as Kenya court declares his abduction, rendition illegal, awards him with a huge sum of money. Now, let us take this news gradually. Let us analyze this news and also give Biafrans more hope to the release of Nnamdi Kanu finally, because for Kenya to acknowledge the fact that his abduction was illegal. In fact, for them to come out to say that Nnamdi Kanu was actually abducted. I gave this news a long time ago when the case was still in court in Kenya. And so many people were like, this is fake and all that. I said, no, this information is coming directly from Kenya. Even their president had to even talk about it. And so many people rejected that information thinking it was false. But let us go into the news in detail, because this particular news came directly from Sahara Reporters. They were the first to even drop the news, before it went viral. Now, the news. The High Court in Nairobi, Kenya has ruled that the abduction and detention of indigenous people of Biafran IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu and his subsequent rendition to Nigeria in June 2021 were unlawful and illegal. Delivering judgment, Justice E.C. Nwita held that the action of both the Kenyan and the Nigerian government amounted to gross violation of Kanu's fundamental human rights as protected by their respective constitution. Now, this draws me to the question of why did the Kenyan government deny the fact that they knew nothing about Nnamdi Kanu being in Kenya? That is one. They also denied the fact that they had no business in Nnamdi Kanu's abduction and illegal rendition. That is two. And they failed to acknowledge the fact that they were complicit to the abduction of Nnamdi Kanu. Three. Now, bringing down to the issue of what happened in court, where the DSS denied the fact that Nnamdi Kanu was never in Kenya. He wasn't abducted in Kenya, that he doesn't even know. That means the DSS, the DSS personnel who spoke, who gave a witness on behalf of the federal government against Nnamdi Kanu, was lying under oath. That is also a crime on its own. To lie under oath is a crime. Go and check the Nigerian constitution. It is a big crime to lie under oath, especially when the lie is obvious. And with this information, it is now obvious that the DSS official lied under oath. Let us continue with the news still. The court also awarded 10 million naira Kenyan shilling, approximately 119.5 million. Wow. So Kenya money is this, well, everything about the zoo is messed up. That is 119.5 million naira in compensatory damages against the Kenya government for its role in the unlawful abduction and rendition. Justice Nwita declared, having considered the pleadings and arguments by parties, the decision relied on the constitution and the law. I come to the following conclusion. The judge said, first, the government of Kenya violated the constitution and Mr. Nnamdi Kanu's right and fundamental freedoms. Having entered Kenya lawfully, he was subject to the protection offered by the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and the government of Kenya had an obligation to uphold and protect his rights and fundamental freedoms. Mr. Nnamdi Kanu was, however, abducted, kept solitude, confinement, tortured and denied food and medication, a breach of basic rights. He was chained, humiliated, ridiculed, and held in contempt and later forcibly removed from Kenya without following the law in violation of his right and fundamental freedom for which the government of Kenya is liable. Based on the above conclusion, the court makes the following declaration and orders it considers appropriate. A declaration is hereby issued that the abduction of Mr. Nwannekenyi Nnamdi Kenny Oku Kanu, holding him incommunicado confinement, torturing him and denying him food, water, medication, and other basic necessities was a violation of his right and fundamental freedom. He continued in his statement by saying, a declaration is hereby issued that the abduction and subsequent forcible removal of Mr. Nwannekenyi Nnamdi Kenny Okukano from Kenya to Nigeria was in violation of the laws of Kenya, his rights and fundamental freedom, including freedom of movement and security of the person guaranteed by the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and therefore unconstitutional and illegal. An order for compensation is hereby issued awarding Mr. Nwannekenyi Nnamdi Kenny Oku Kanu general damages of Kenya shilling of 10 million naira Kenyan shilling against the Attorney General of Kenya on behalf of the government of Kenya for the violation of Mr. Nwannekenyi Nnamdi Kenny Oku Kanu's constitutional right and fundamental freedom. Meanwhile, the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB hailed the judgment as a landmark victory that vindicates its position on Kanu's ordeal. A statement by IPOB spokesperson Emma Powerful reads, the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB wishes to formally announce a resounding judicial earthquake that has shaken the legal foundation of the fraudulent rendition of our leader, Onyendu Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. In a historic, courageous, and landmark judgment delivered on June 24, 2025, the High Court of Kenya, sitting in Nairobi, found that the abduction, incommunicado detention, torture, and illegal transfer of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria in June 2021 was unlawful, unconstitutional, and a gross violation of his fundamental human rights under Kenya and international law. This judgment vindicates our consistent position that what transpired in Nairobi in June 2021 was not extradition but extraordinary rendition, a criminal act of state-sponsored international terrorism involving the highest authorities of the Nigerian and Kenyan government. We are grateful beyond measures to the brilliant legal leadership of Professor P.L.O. Lumumba led counsel in the Kenya litigation, whose courage, clarity, and tenacity led to this monumental legal victory. IPOB also extend heartfelt appreciation to the Kenyan judiciary, especially Honorable Justice Isi Nwita, who stood tall against some ferocious and political interference and international diplomatic pressure to deliver a fearless judgment grounded in law, morality, and constitutional justice. The IPOB went further to say, we know and now the world must acknowledge that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu did not commit any crime in Kenya. He entered Kenya lawfully as a British citizen. He was abducted in broad daylight at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport by agents of Nigeria's secret police in collusion with rogue elements of the Kenya security apparatus. He was chained, he was tortured, denied medication, and eventually bundled onto a private jet and flown illegally to Abuja without any extradition hearing or judicial warrant. This verdict places a permanent and indelible legal stain on the record of former President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, Muhammad Buhari of Nigeria, and former Attorney General Abubakar Malami and their accomplices. It exposes the criminal lobbying missions embarked upon by Nigerian leaders from Buhari, Osibanjo to Tinubu and Shetima. All of them tried and failed to manipulate Kenya's judiciary to cover up this internationally condemned act of extraordinary rendition. Let it be known that this is not the end. This is the beginning of a global accountability campaign. All those responsible in Kenya, Nigeria, or elsewhere shall be pursued to the end of the earth under the universal principle of accountability for crimes against humanity. Neither British diplomatic complicity nor cowardly silence from Western powers will shield the perpetrators from the legal, diplomatic, and moral reckoning that is coming. To Justice Isi Nwita, we say thank you for your judicial bravery. To Professor P.L.O. Lumumbu and his team, we salute your exceptional advocacy. To the oppressed people of the world, this is your victory. A warning to tyrants that international borders will no longer shield criminal regimes from justice. And we are already seeing what transpired or what is currently happening in Kenya. As I'm talking to you, there is a huge, when I mean a huge, I mean a very massive, a very massive ongoing protest happening in Kenya. This protest has actually exposed a lot of things, and it is causing fear in Kenya. They want the president of Kenya to leave, but that is not the issue. This victory of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is a victory for all, not just for Biafrans. Like Emma Powerful said, it is a victory that will continue to speak volume in the world, and it is for those who have actually been held illegally, those that are being silenced. And I'm going to extend this also to the people of Finland, and also to the Prime Minister Simon Ekpa Njoku. This victory will continue to resound and reverberate, in every part of the world. We say kudos to Kenyan government and judiciary, because I know the zoo, we are not going to back down easily. I know also that the zoo, we are going to make sure that they do everything possible to suppress Kenya, from speaking out the truth. But thankfully, the Kenyan government, were able to, their judiciary were able to stand tall in the face of adversity to expose and give the right stance on the case. So Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has won the case in Kenya, and Kenya has agreed that truly Mazi Nnamdi Kanu entered lawfully into their country, irrespective of what the zoo government and his accomplices have been doing. It is a shame on the British government, the way they've handled the issue of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. It has continued to review and expose them that they don't care about their citizen. They only care about what goes into their pocket. They care about the resources that they gain from the zoo. They care about what goes into their account and not the people. Because continue to ask me a simple question: why is Nnamdi Kanu still being held? Nnamdi Kanu, who is a British citizen, still being held in DSS custody, despite the fact that the court has given him freedom. We continue to see this ill treatment being meted upon Biafrans. And what can we say? We continue to call on the word, and we continue to speak out volume and raise our voice and expose this atrocious act by these people and agents of darkness. Thank you once again for joining us on this wonderful YouTube news that we brought to you today on the great victory of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Please make sure you let this go viral. Let the world continue to know that the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, is innocent.